And just like that, we are live with Tiffanie Robinson. And Tiffanie, the question you were asking me, I will answer offline. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good. That's a good call. Because I've got other questions too. So
it's a good call. It is a good call. So Tiffanie Robinson, it has been, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks since I've had you on.
No, longer than that.
Has it really?
Probably like 6 or 8 weeks. Yeah.
Well, see, I'm in a bubble, so there's no Saturdays or Sundays or Tuesdays.
Time is a flat circle. Yeah.
How's it been since I talked to you last?
I think it's been fine. I don't remember. I remember talking to you, but I don't know what's happened in between. So I know that, elections have happened since then. I know that school plans have changed since then. I know that I did go on vacation for about a week since then. So
where'd you go to vacation? What part of the world?
Well, I actually went to Yosemite. So I'm very lucky that I got to go on that trip. My husband actually opened a brewery out there. And so we had to go for his work. And so we packed up the boys and we all 5 went. So
wow.
Yeah, it was hellacious traveling with 3 kids across country, but especially the 1-year-old. But it was beautiful when we got there. And I'm so happy we went. It was the best trip.
Was it, when you got out there, was the COVID different? Is it being handled differently out there than it is out here or down here?
It is definitely more locked down out there. So we landed in San Francisco and nothing was open in the San Francisco airport. I mean, nobody was even in the San Francisco airport. I traveled a lot to San Francisco, probably, I don't know, for about 4 or 5 years of my career, probably a few times a year. And I mean, I've never seen the San Francisco airport look as empty or just, kind of sad as it did. But then unfortunately the week that we got out there, they actually had shut down all their restaurants. And so Yosemite though is a different story because it's this massive park. There's nothing out there anyways, but they are only allowing a limited number of people into the park every day. So it was pretty empty too, but I've never been before. So I didn't have a lot of context to compare to, but when we were talking to the locals, they said, oh yeah, numbers are very low compared to what it normally is at this time of year.
Was it hard, or did you find your body craving a time to deplug, to deprogram and get away from the chaos, or did you really ever get a chance to breathe deep and kind of escape into a different world?
I would say for the first time, I didn't worry about work while I was on vacation. Like this is probably the very first time. Now it could be because I also have a really great team, and because of COVID, we've just improved so much on the operational side, and we've built more trust in each other. So maybe there's part of that. But honestly, so leading up to my vacation, I remember actually saying to myself, if your flight gets canceled, because they were starting to cancel hotels and stuff like that, California was, if your flight gets canceled, you must still go on vacation, even if it's just sitting at home. And because my mental state was that I needed a vacation so bad. So, for a lot of business owners, and, people in general, but I definitely put business owners or, high level management into a special box. Like for the last 5 months, 6 months, we've been doing nothing but crisis planning, and it's exhausting. To wake up every single day and to crisis plan over and over and over again. And that's what I spent all of April and May doing. And it was exhausting.
Well, and right now we were kind of alluding to this before we came on the air. There's really no place to escape that. Used to be, if you had a day stressful at work, you could go to the gym, or you could go home, or you could go on a vacation. Now,
there's not many options.
Wherever you go, there's the tension of what we're living through. So there's really, you're always in the middle of.
Absolutely. You can't get onto Facebook and, see anything positive. You can't turn on the TV. It's kind of crazy. Absolutely. And, it's kind of weird because I was watching a movie this weekend that was, I don't know, filmed in 2017, and they were all a crowded bar. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, they can't be there. But then I was like, oh wait, this is pre-COVID life. So I think it's surely this is happening to other people. My brain is starting to actually adjust to this new way of life. And I don't want to, it's really sad.
No.
I'm hoping that with school reopening this week that we start to maybe get back to some habits that are, positive, and our kids start seeing, just a better side of for their own mental health. But I'm interested to see, what does life look like with schools reopening, and how does that affect parents?
I hate to throw the wet blanket on everything, but football in the fall looks very iffy. I think everybody was looking for that escape.
I agree.
Have I looked forward to it as much.
I know. I don't even like football that much, but I live in a house full of boys, and my oldest is a football fanatic. And so, I was even looking forward to college football just even to have that experience with him, because we do watch a lot of college football now that he can go into it.
Distraction. Yeah.
I will say, though, that Little League football in some areas are happening. My son's on a Little League football team, and so maybe we just all start attending Little League football games.
Big
And
foam fingers.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we're on the River City Bills team over in East Chattanooga, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's joyful to watch those kids.
Be careful. There's a lot of people in the South that will get drunk in the parking lot to start tailgating 3 hours before a 12-year-old football game. If you force them into, November with no football.
That may be what we see happen. And maybe Little League football teams will now raise more money than ever. So it's all, maybe that's the positive.
Listen, I want to talk a little bit about business and a little bit about school, and then I'm going to let you go because I know you haven't eaten lunch, and I know that's a bad thing if you go that long. But so work-wise, and I know business is going pretty good. We were talking about it's just weird. Some businesses have suffered. Some businesses have pushed through. We don't know if a wave is coming of the financial part. But I remember we talked about this last time, things that you've learned that you're going to take with you outside of this. But have you found that even more so since the last 6 to 8 weeks? Have you actually started implementing some stuff that you've learned during the COVID? And has working remotely affected people looking for office space in your world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. What have I learned? I feel like, again, like my brain is like a little flat. I will say that, like, I've seen a big shift in the market on the real estate front in the last 6 to 8 weeks. So you're asking about office space. I'll talk to you about that first. We are seeing a lot of office tenants and retailers start to pick back up in interest. So I mean, like, that's why I like remain a little confused, because we're doing really well. Our brokerage team is incredibly busy and doing a lot of transactions right now. But what I think I'm seeing that I think could tie into a lesson learned is that the people that are able to be aggressive right now are the people that were really healthy before COVID. So the businesses that were in a really healthy spot cash wise and operationally, they are now saying, I'm going to take advantage of this time and I'm going to go grow my business. Yeah. And I think, that's admirable in a lot of ways, but certainly it's a lesson learned for all entrepreneurs, which is that, like, whenever a crisis hits, like, it is an opportunity. It could be a time to be opportunistic. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's capitalism, right? So, and if you're in a good spot, you now can really think about, like, how do I go scale my business and open up multiple locations? So we're working with a lot of opportunistic franchises, a lot of opportunistic retailers that are taking the time to do that. And that includes restaurants and retail, like actual retail. On the office front, we're starting to see that pick back up too, because I think what people are discovering is that working from home isn't like as productive for either them as individuals or their team and company as a whole. And I actually had a prediction that that's where we would get to, which is that, like, people will say, cool, this was great for, the first 3 months, but it turns out that, like, I can't manage watching my kids at home and working, or honestly, like, I just really miss the camaraderie of my team and my peers. But I do think that what's going to happen, and we're seeing this come out like in white papers too, is that, the office market is going to shrink, but it's not going to shrink the way that people are expecting. So we expect to see about a 20 to 25% shrinkage in the office market. And that will take a few years, 3 to 5 years to probably recover from. But what that should mean also is that we just start thinking about office space differently, which is that, if you've got 10,000 square feet as a landlord to lease out, like, it's gonna be really hard to find a tenant. If you can shrink that down to 3,000 to 5,000 square foot, floor plans, it's going to be way easier to lease it out. So you got to
one of the words I wrote down was design. And I want to echo your thoughts on the marketplace too. If you're a business, a great lesson to learn is the reason it's good to do best practice when things are good is so when opportunities like this present themselves, you can go grab more of the market share, or maybe your competition is actually having to cut budgets because they haven't focused on doing it the right way.
Yeah. And the people that decide to grow and to be open right now, like, and I'm speaking like probably mostly about restaurants at this moment. Like, I'll just be really honest with you. Like, those are the ones that are probably going to thrive whenever COVID has become tamed and we are in some form of a like new rhythm. It's hard to really believe that we're ever going to be 100% back to where we were, because we will always remember this, right? Like 9/11 happened, and we never went back to being never fearful of a plane ride or something happening in our airports. So even if COVID, becomes resolved and we can operate at like a certain level back to 100%. We just never will, because we form new habits and we have new memories in our mind. But like the restaurants that are not opening right now, like maybe that have said like, I just, we don't want to open at all, or we're not even really doing much around to go. It's going to be really hard for them to even survive, even if they were the strongest players before COVID. So, there's restaurant groups that have always been like the best restaurants and they've been well funded. Some of those have like chosen to not reopen or to do very limited opening. And so now all these smaller restaurants that are like servicing as many customers as they can, like around mandates and doing a lot of to-go business and like making themselves really present during COVID, they're going to be the ones that do really well whenever we have figured out our new habits.
Yeah. And it's important to figure out how you handle this stuff, because I'm telling you, even if you, like you said, COVID gets tamed, there's going to be another headline in the next year or 2 years of another virus. Viruses aren't going away. How we handle them, I think, will change. And the designs, and the design space, I like how you said you shrink it up instead of 10,000, you break it up, but also just the layout now of offices. I can imagine, with the build outs are going to be a little different. I would think.
They are. Yeah, they are. And, it's going to be hard on landlords, because some landlords are in a position to put that money in and, make a different product. And some landlords are not going to be in that position to do that. And it's not even their own fault. So, real estate's so interesting, because people think that like, oh, if you've got a piece of property and you've got a tenant in it, you're probably just rolling in the dough. It's like, nah, you really don't make money in real estate until like the mortgage has been paid down. There's equity in the property. So there's a lot of new construction that's come up in the last few years, and those properties aren't going to have equity to necessarily pour back into those properties to reconfigure the space and the design of the floor plans. And that's going to be really hard on landlords, especially if banks are not able to provide funding to those landlords, because to be honest with you, there's just not a lot of equity yet, or whatever the situation is. So, it's just not going to be as like cut and dry as I think what people outside of real estate think that it may be.
All right. Can you give me about 5 minutes and then I'll let you go. Okay. I want to ask you a couple questions, because I also know you are the school board member for District 4, right?
Yep. And I was just reelected. So
yes, you were.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I get to represent for 4 more years. So I'm excited.
Well, so and this doesn't have to be, because these are designed, not to be we don't have to dive too deep, but the decision to open back up schools, that has happened since we last spoke. That was not an easy decision to come to.
No, not at all. And I actually served on the reopening committee or task force. And so, personally, I went through crisis management in April and May for my own company. And then I dived into crisis management for the school system to figure out what we were going to do. So when it was time to go on that vacation, I really needed it. So, so school starts tomorrow for all Hamilton County students. And if you are in cohort A and chose to go to school in person, you will go to school tomorrow, but then you'll do remote learning Thursday and Friday. And then if you are in cohort B and chose to go to school in person, you will go to school on Thursday and do remote learning on Friday. So the other option that parents had, instead of sending their child in person, was to opt into HCS at home, which is a remote learning program that the school system designed to keep kids engaged with their classroom teacher and with the kids in their class every day, and basically follow along the same school schedule as they would as if they were there in person. So in fact, we may be the only school system in the state launching that. We by far put together the most robust plan of options for parents than any other school district in the state of Tennessee.
Do you know how many kind of opted into what layer? I mean, I'm sure that's out there. I'm asking you because I haven't kept up with it.
I don't know that it's really been public, but I'm happy to talk about it. We had between 25 and 30% of parents choose for their students to stay home and either do virtual school or the HCS at home. And just to give clarity, virtual school is a whole different school within Hamilton County school system. So you would actually unenroll from your zone school or whatever school you've been attending, and you would actually now opt into virtual school. And that's a self-paced school program.
The other option, though, is you're staying in your school, zone school. You're just interacting with your teachers different. Okay.
Over the computer. Or the third option is to go to school in person.
Right. And that's the cohort A, cohort B type thing. Okay.
That's right. Yep.
Well, it sounds like a lot of work, and it sounds
Mhm.
like, and I don't want to bring it up too much, but I know there's a lot of fear from teachers, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of concern from parents. And this is where I think at some point, this is going to sound bad. I'm trying to figure out how a good way to say it. I don't know if there ever be a perfect way to do it again.
There's
I
there's no right answer. There's also
yeah,
no wrong answer. And the more that people can become comfortable with that, the more people will start to like become comfortable with our current situation. I mean, I'm just being very blunt with you.
yeah,
It is that there is no perfect answer. We cannot predict the future. We do not have a crystal ball. And we are doing the best that we can as parents, as school system leaders, even businesses are in the same boat. Like, we're all just doing the best that we can to figure this out.
yeah,
And kids gotta learn. Students have to learn. They have to get an education. It is our job to educate them, and um, we have provided as many options as we can. So, as a parent, if you do not feel comfortable with your student going to school, don't send them to school. There are two really great options to choose. It is unfortunate though. You are gonna. I mean, every side loses something, right? Like the kids that are doing remote learning aren't going to have the really fun interactions of being around their friends every day.
which by the way is an education in itself. Learning how to
Absolutely.
handle those
I know.
relationships when teachers and parents are some of the best things I ever learned were on playgrounds where no adult was around, and you learn how to handle conflict
I
as
couldn't
a
agree
9 year
more.
old.
I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more. And that's going to really carry over to some degree into their adult lives eventually. But then on the other hand, sending your child to school in person, yeah, I mean, you're definitely putting everyone at risk of something, or being a part of the volatility that, schools might have to shut down whenever a case outbreaks. But everyone has had a lot of time to think through what makes the most sense for them.
yeah,
And you have to just be okay with the decision that you're making, because ultimately, like, you're going to be okay and your child is going to be okay too. And that's what I've said over and over to parents as a school board member, like whenever I've just been talking to them, because parents right now are just really fearful. Not every parent, but there's a lot of parents that are, operating out of fear. And I understand that. I'm a parent too. And like, I just have to be okay with remembering that whatever decision I make for my boys, it's going to be the right decision for them.
well, and two, and this is, I'm just getting everybody prepared for headlines because you see it. Cases, there's cases reported. Of course, the more people interact, take school out of it. It doesn't matter if you're going,
Yeah.
to church, if you're going to a protest, if you're going to the grocery store, or if you're going to a rally. Guess what? The more you're around people, the more the cases are going to go up. And so, pointing to case where more cases being reported, that's relevant, but it's a puzzle piece.
It
It's
is a
not the
piece of
whole
it.
picture.
So our entire reopening plan has been based on metrics just like that. And every single day we've been monitoring it. I will say that I was pleasantly surprised to see yesterday's numbers be the lowest that I've seen in
Yeah.
a very long time. I think we have about 1,200 active cases. So technically right now, the way that we're reopening school with this hybrid of like in school 2 days, doing remote for 3 days, the plan is to only do that through August 31st and then reopen schools 5 days a week, September 1, as long as the cases are at the number that they currently are, because that follows our reopening plan. Right now, we would be in phase 3, which is 5 days a week in school.
Right. Well, and the last thing I'll say, and then we're going to end up with some a fun question, is one thing that I think we've learned is that if things, let's say you get 2 weeks, 3 weeks into it, we start seeing things that aren't like we want. We now know that we can go, okay, we can go back to the learning at classroom. We know we can do that. I mean, at home, we can do that now. We're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be in a state of chaos like we were in March and April.
No, and I'm really proud of Hamilton County for really putting together a fantastic plan that addresses all of that on the front end. Like I said earlier, I'm really not being biased. I really think I would tell you if I was, but or I would at least recognize it. We have put together the best school reopening plan in the state of Tennessee and possibly one of the best in the country. We've not seen very many other places put together the kind of options that we've put together, for students and for parents. Even our teachers that are returning to the classroom, we are providing them with 5 day a week childcare. I mean,
Wow.
that's huge. Most employers can't even do that. Um, and so we have put a lot of resources, a lot of brains to this reopening plan. And no, not everybody's happy with it. And I, to be honest with you, sometimes can't wrap my head around why, because there's so many options, but nothing's ever going to be perfect for everyone. But we have put together a plan that is out of the park. And I really do believe that based on how we have restructured this reopening, we will see the gains from our students compared to around the state, because the around the state, they have not, even Nashville and Williamson County, they have not put together the kind of robust learning options that we have.
Well, welcome to the spotlight, Tiffanie. You will never make everybody happy. So
I've known that for a while.
Now that you're out there, oh, I know, and you're comfortable with it. You're comfortable with that. Okay, let's end up with this real quick. When you work out, are you listening to music or podcast?
Oh, music.
What kind of music?
If I have to listen to people squawk, it just stresses me out. So what do I listen to? I listen to like a lot of heavy rock or like a lot of rap music.
Like old school or new stuff?
Yeah, old school. Yeah.
Well, I'm older than you, so my old school would be different. Do you go back to the 90s and 80s, or are you early 2000s?
No, like ZZ Top or like AC/DC.
Okay, that's awesome. That's my
like the 70s.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Are you a book
90s
reader?
rock is like so depressing. It would make me just want to like go to sleep. So
yes. Yeah. 70s and 80s rock is the best. Yeah. Are you a book reader?
I would love to be, but I don't have time. My kids are I'm lucky if I go to bed by like 10:30 at night. So when is there time to read?
All right, favorite movie genre. Do you have a certain type of movie you like? Are you a superheroes? Are you a romantic comedy? Are you mystery? Or are you not into movies?
No, I like movies. I love, I really just like comedy. And also, I guess I like dark comedy. Like I like, I think a newer movie called like Eight Knives. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Okay. I would kind of consider that like a dark comedy. Yeah. So I like
it's a good one.
Yeah, it is really good. Yeah.
All right. Last question. Hobbies. Do you hike? Do you do anything? Are you a mom and a wife? Is that your hobby?
Community service is clearly my hobby.
Yes. Do you do something though to disengage, to get some space between you and the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, definitely working out has become like a hobby for me. I work out like 4 or 5 days a week. Definitely. I was already working out a lot before, but like COVID's really like kind of.
What do you do for a workout? Is it weight training, aerobic?
Yeah, weight training. And like at one point in time, like over the years, I've been a runner. So I don't love running, but I picked it up as a hobby just to like see if I could start doing races, and I did, and I got kind of like burned out of that. So, I love going to workout classes. Yeah.
Are you a jazzercise?
I do love jazzercise. I would do that all day long.
Do you wear the big stockings? The big up to your knees, like they did in the 80s? And
I wish.
All right. Tiffanie, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I know
thanks for having me.
You got off one call and you've got other stuff to do today, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All right, stay safe. Good luck.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.